Hey guys, Christy Zeno here, and thanks for joining me. This video will cover the section in our ELA Handbook and Priority Standards document called Understanding the Reading Standards. I will take you on a deep dive into how the reading standards are organized and written, and also discuss the resources we've included to help you gain instructional clarity around each standard. We begin with the College and Career Readiness Anchor Standards. Okay, our anchor standards, as a reminder, are those end game goals for when a student graduates high school and they're entering into the college and career world. These are the things that are named as skills that students should be able to do by the time they graduate. All right, they want our students to enter the college and career world equipped with these skills. And so there are 10 anchor standards in reading, 10 in writing, 6 in speaking and listening, and 6 in language, for a total of 32 total anchor standards. Okay, so in reading, again, there are 10, and the idea of the anchor standard is to take that end goal and backwards map it all the way down to the kindergarten level. So in all grades, K through 8, and then in high school, students are working around those same 10 anchor standards every single year. Each year, teacher will add a layer. So each year it becomes a bit more complex and a bit more rigorous, kind of working its way up to that final end goal by the time a student graduates. Okay, so the next page in our document really digs into the standards in the reading strand, all right? If you were a part of any of our ELA basics trainings this year, we really focused on understanding how our reading standards are organized, how they are written, and we know that there's a level of depth of knowledge and complexity that goes along with how the standards are written. So we're going to kind of dig into that. We know that the first 3 standards out of 10 are considered our key ideas and details standards. All right, so we take a deep dive into those 3 standards here. You'll notice that reading literature falls on the left and reading informational text will fall on the right. Now, I want to take you back and kind of take your attention to the college and career anchor. We've got an anchor here, an anchor here, and an anchor here. Those are our first 3 anchor standards. Okay, so we know that these anchor standards are our end goal, right? This is by the time a student graduates, this is what they should be able to do, all right? And we said that those are backwards mapped at every grade level down to kinder. So the 3rd grade version of that anchor standard falls here, okay? Our L31 and our I31. Notice that they are basically the same skill. Both of these skills in literature and information are working toward this anchor standard, okay? That anchor standard, it differs and it's broken down into your RL or RI simply based on whether you're reading fiction or nonfiction text, okay? So I'd like to highlight reading standard 2, all right? The anchor standard says determine central ideas or themes of a text and analyze their development, summarize the key supporting details and ideas, okay? So this is what our students should be able to do by the time they graduate. And at 3rd grade, all right, that spells out in literature as recount stories, including fables, folktales, and myths from diverse cultures, determining the central message, lesson, or moral, and explain how it is conveyed through key details in the text. So notice how those 2 are related, right? So again, we've got central message, lesson or moral, theme, that sort of thing, okay? On the informational side, determine the main idea of the text, recount key details, and explain how they support the main idea. Notice this also is directly related to that anchor standard. So you have your anchor standard, and then that's broken up into your RLs and your RIs, just simply based on the type of text you're reading, okay? So this particular page here really digs into what students should be able to do within these 3 standards. Remember, our key ideas and details standards 1 through 3 are written at about a DOK 1 or 2. You are always able to increase the DOK there, but these standards really focus on information that is surface level, that doesn't require a ton of complex thought, And so therefore, we call these just the key ideas and detail standards here, okay? So this is followed by some text-dependent questions that are matched with our key ideas and detail standards. Here's Anchor Standard 1, Anchor Standard 2, and Anchor Standard 3. Those are followed by, basic general question stems and frames that can be easily utilized by the teacher when reading anything. And I want to point that out. This document is full of information, and the information that goes along with these standards can be applied to anything you're reading. So recently we've done some trainings around instructional clarity. And one of the things we talked about was relevance for our students. We know that it's difficult to engage our students. And so therefore we really need to be strategic about making things relevant for our students. And one of the things I love about that is that with this information and really understanding the reading standards, you're able to apply this to absolutely anything that you're reading. It can be what you're reading in science and social studies. It can be a super fun, interesting article in Scholastic News. It could be something that your students have deemed interesting that they want to learn more about. And so these things can be applied to absolutely anything that you're reading and learning about, okay? So next we're going to get into our actual standards deconstruction templates. You'll notice that we begin with RL, grade 3, standard 1. So that's our reading for literature standard. That's followed by our reading for information, grade 3, standard 1. So I'm going to come back up here and we'll kind of look at what these documents here include. They begin obviously with a standard number. They highlight the anchor standard, which is our anchor standard 1. The standard language for their grade level, the essential skills and concepts that are required by the standard, any academic vocabulary that's connected with the standard, question stems that are specific to the grade level. They include the grade level below and the grade level above in terms of their standard language. And what we've added in the Lancaster School District is this assessment and strategies piece. What we did was we pulled assessment samples from, in kinder and first, we pulled them from our Wonders benchmark assessments, and in grades 2 through 8, we pulled these samples from our iReady Standards Mastery. So those have been included as well in this section. And to wrap it up, we've also included the in the classroom application piece. By no means is this in the classroom application required by teachers, but it's simply a way for teachers to understand what instruction around this standard may look like in the classroom with students. So that's pretty valuable. We're hoping that it helps kind of clarify what the standard is asking our students to do. Okay, so these move on. Remember, we're in key ideas and details here. So this is standards 1 through 3. Okay, so I'm going to scroll through, show you that you've got a granular look at every single standard. All right, our key ideas and detail standards are followed by our craft and structure standards, and those are standards 4 through 6. And craft and structure digs a little bit deeper. You'll notice that the DOK level is upped a bit here. These are traditionally written at a DOK 2 and 3. And remember, like I said before, the DOK level can be adjusted by the teacher, but this is just a starting point. So our craft and structure standards 4 through 6 are written to basically focus the reader's attention on the choices that the author made while crafting and structuring the text. All right, so we look at word choice, we look at point of view, those types of things. We look at structure. It may be cause and effect or problem solution. So the way that the text is built is what we're focusing on in these 3 standards, standards 4, 5, and 6, and we call those our craft and structure standards. So you notice this follows the same pattern that we talked about with key ideas and details. We introduce the cluster with some information about what students should be able to do within these standards and some questions that you might be asking related to these standards. That's followed by the 3 anchor standards that fit into this category. So reading standard 4, reading standard 5, and reading standard 6. Those are further broken down into the reading literature and reading informational text. All right, so this is going to follow the same pattern. We move then into the text-dependent questioning for craft and structure. So again, Anchor Standard 4, Anchor Standard 5, and Anchor Standard 6 are included here. This is then followed by, you guessed it, the granular look at each standard broken into reading literature and reading information. Okay, and these templates all include the same information. Again, the anchor, the standard, the essential skills and concepts, your academic vocabulary question stems, grade level below, grade level above, and assessment strategies and in the classroom tips. Right? So this document will follow this and continue this pattern. You'll notice that we're moving now into our next group of 3 standards. The next 3 standards, standards 7, 8, and 9, are our integration of knowledge and ideas standards. And these standards, as you see, the DOK that's written into these standards is our highest level, 3 and 4. These standards require the deepest thinking from our students. This is where they're going to be doing things like comparing multiple texts and potentially watching a video and reading a text, taking information that they have maybe from one content area and combining that with new information and synthesizing that to formulate new ideas. So this is where, this is the end goal. This is where, as thinkers, we want to be able to take information from all over the place. As we know, information comes at us from so many different sources. We need to understand how to look for patterns in those, how to look for common themes and concepts. We need to be able to take images and media and disseminate the information we get from those things and apply it to the bigger picture in terms of what we're reading for a greater understanding. So these integration of knowledge and idea standards really are laid out here. I do want to point out to you that standard 8 is not applicable to literature. So if you are looking at it through our documents and you're wondering where the information for standard 8 on the literature side is, it does not exist. Let's take a look at that anchor standard so that we can kind of understand why. The anchor standard says delineate and evaluate the argument and specific claims in a text, including the validity of the reasoning as well as the relevance and sufficiency of the evidence. In other words, does the author do a good job at making a claim or an argument and backing it up with valid reasoning? And in that case, you're not going to see that in literature. You're only going to see that in your informational nonfiction text. So that's why that standard is not applicable to literature, if you're wondering. As we move forward, you will, as you guessed it, get into the text-dependent questions that are related and associated with our integration of knowledge and ideas standards. So that, again, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, all right. These are followed by our standard deconstruction templates. And the very final standard in our anchor standards for reading is standard 10. And this standard is kind of what we like to call an umbrella standard. You aren't necessarily going to form a lesson around it, but the goal is that our students read and comprehend complex literary and informational text independently and proficiently. This is the goal, that they are reading text in a wide range of informational and literature about all different things with different complexities, and that they're able to comprehend and understand what they're reading, and that the scaffolding that we provide as teachers when reading and when instructing on reading is removed, we know that our students are able to do that the work themselves in the comprehension area. So that is the end goal there, and that's reading standard 10. You'll notice that we highlight that we track students' independent reading proficiency through various informal and formal assessments, including the iReady assessment, and we provide tiered supports when necessary. So I like to tell teachers that, hey, we say you've got 10 reading standards, but really you are focusing on and planning for 9, because this reading standard 10 is supported by everything else that you do. All right. So that is kind of it in terms of the standards examination. Then that's followed by our assessment piece. And this assessment piece is the same for every grade level. It talks about which assessment options that we recommend for formative assessments in the Lancaster School District, one being our iReady Standards Mastery, 2, the Illuminate Inspect item bank, and 3 being the SBAC focused interim assessment blocks. All right, and for more information, you can click on one of these links and it'll take you to an alternate website where you can read more information and gather what you're looking for. Also, we've had teachers ask us for the IAB answer keys, and those are also linked here so that you don't have to go searching for those either. There is a note here specific to our kinder and first grade teachers. Although our kinder and first grade teachers don't have standards mastery options or SBAC focused IABs options, we do recommend that they do at some point in time take a look. You can do that in the form of looking at the standards templates for another grade level and looking at those sample questions, but we just want you to understand how important you are in setting the foundation for what our students will be required to do in the future. And as we've discussed today, we know that our standards are backwards mapped all the way down to the kinder level. So our kinder and first grade teachers are just as important as anybody else to set those students up for success. The final page in this document is our interim assessment by grade level menu. So this is basically which IABs and focus IABs are available for you to choose from with your students. These can be used as instructional tools. They can be used as formative assessments. But either way you choose, it's a great idea to expose ourselves as teachers and students to these question types and to the interfaces long before our students sit down at the summative assessment at the end of the year. So getting our students on these IABs and focused IABs is just a good idea for many reasons. That concludes our introduction to our ELA handbook and priority standards. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at zinok@lancsd.org. And I hope that this document is helpful for you moving forward and helps to really clarify the ELA reading standards. Again, we will be adding to this document, so be looking for updates. And we thank you for your time and hope that you all have a wonderful day.